Frieza Race characters are one of the 8 CAC races. If you couldn't tell, the CACs are designed to be the next generation of fighters that far surpass Goku and the others. That being said, I don't have anything against the CAC characters and races aside from male Earthlings, so when I say this, don't freak out just yet, just stick around and you'll hear me, but Frieza Race characters have some of the worst combo strings for online play. We'll go over this a bit later, but it has to do with the cinematic combo strings. They weren't properly tested in an online setting, and they will drop for no reason in latency, greatly harming your combo potential with these guys. Once again, we'll go over that a little bit more in detail later, but for now, let's talk about Frieza Race characters in general. I won't be helping you guys build using any carry tools, meaning that we're going to go for synergy when it comes to learning about the Frieza Race, and not abusable super attacks that take away from how much you need to do to perform well. That being said, I completely understand if you play using carry tools as a Frieza Race character, because so much of your arsenal is like useless online. Frieza Race characters are said to have some of the highest basic attack damage, and the highest base speed of the game, and even neat innate properties involving stamina recovery mid-combat. But for now, we're going to talk about cancels. We're pushing stuff to the bottom, just so we can go over that a little bit, a little bit more in depth. But anyway, if they haven't popped up yet on screen, you should know that Frieza Race characters have a lot of natural dash and step cancels. They have the light, heavy step cancel that most other CACs have to keep them mobile, but the best part is that they have the dash and step cancels before most of their cinematic combo enders or transitions in their combos. These guys are so fast that you can catch up to opponents fairly quickly in like dash cancel loops, so if you wanted to press your opponent to waste that stamina, these guys can do it very easily. Frieza Race characters unfortunately don't have any super special flashy stamina break confirms. I've got a couple of them in this video for you that should pop up soon if they haven't popped up yet, but for the most part you want to use that knockback attack, which is basically the heavy attack plus the key blast button. Follow that up by immediately pressing the ascend button, which is X on PlayStation, and then press the light attack button while your character is zooming up to your opponent to put your opponent in the juggle state. When they're in the juggle state, just do the break. This is a basic concept that you'll understand like immediately if you see it, but if that's a bit too long-winded for you, find a situation where you could like basically just charge up a heavy attack and pull off the stamina break. Needless to say, these guys don't need stamina breaks to get things done, but I know that a lot of you guys have been asking for them in other videos, or like over time you've been like, hey, where's the Frieza Race stamina break? I'm not going to tell you anything stupid that I wouldn't use, so here, you have practical confirms right there. Whether or not you use them is up to you. Surprisingly enough, Frieza Race characters got like no love in the unique skill department to my knowledge so far, so I'll just go over a super soul that gives you a bit more options for like stamina breakless play, I should say. Gotcha is the super soul from Frieza that gives you a paralyzed ki blast, and the length of that stun is so long, you can actually just run up and do a stamina break or like ultimate attacks if you wanted to after it landed. This gives you more options on how to play these guys, but it isn't exactly something that you'll need, so let's get into the actual game plan with these guys. If you did make it this far into the video, about 3 minutes, congratulations! Here's where we take it a step beyond, and I actually like break down these guys a little bit more. Frieza Race characters have amazing speed and can do great things in the neutral if you're spec'd around that speed. Earlier in the video I mentioned that these guys have some of the worst combo strings of the CACs in the game for online play, so I'd like to explain that for you here if you guys kind of freaked out when you heard that. These guys have cinematic combos, which by default have a chance of acting fairly wonky online. If you played Xenoverse 2 online, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't know what those are, cinematic combos are the combos that take control of your character and show you like an animation or like a mini movie that you have to watch before you can even take control again. It usually shifts the camera to a cinematic angle and tries to rig you and your target in a way that the attack will hit. This is perfectly fine in an offline setting because everything is controlled from your viewpoint on the camera, and you're not like gauging someone else's connection. It becomes an issue when the game can't rig your opponent to sit a certain way that wouldn't make sense on their screen basically. It won't teleport someone to be in the line of your combo to make the combo work in an online setting, which is kinda it doesn't let the cinematics play out correctly. This is an issue because most of your damage is locked away at the ends of those cinematics with the Frieza Race characters, meaning that these guys have to use their supers to cash out on their damage early, or you have to deal with dropping combos and freeing your opponent after doing like 1.4k damage. Unfortunately, their combo impulses are weak as well, meaning that you won't have any knockbacks that knock the opponent back long enough to use one of the flashier, cooler ultimates like Super Kamehameha or like Final Flash at first glance. You can always use the universal no break confirms in the ultimates like Full Power Energy Wave, Warp Kamehameha, Requiem Destruction, etc., but they're universal, meaning that you don't exactly have to be a Frieza Race character to use them. It's not really unique. Strangely enough though, the one ultimate attack that Frieza Race characters can combo into is quite a doozy. Like, it's not a bad one at all. Like, you can use Soul Punisher without a stamina break if your connection is good enough to your opponent, thanks to the advanced mechanic. If it's not popping up yet on screen, it will pop up a little bit later. It's basically the combo where your character does that back fist after the warp combo. It's kind of insane that Soul Punisher is the one like ultimate where it's like, oh hell yeah, like you know. But if you want to use a heavy knockdown though, you do have a situational one where if you use the full heavy combo string behind your opponent's back, close enough to the floor, your opponent is going to be laid out for a long time, long enough for like Super Kamehameha, Final Flash, Special Beam Cannon, things along that line. try it out in training mode if you don't believe me. The heavy combo behind your opponent's back is a heavy knockdown. Of course, you could always just throw one on your moveset with something like Sledgehammer, but again, you don't have a confirm into the fully charged one yet, so but if not that, you can use Wild Hunt to be your heavy knockdown confirm, which is great. If their combos were like 100% consistent online, they'd have some pretty nasty confirms and some beastly supers like the Doria Beam or like Ill Rain. I had a lot of cool combo concepts that I like threw up on Twitter, but I gotta scrap them because they wouldn't work online. And I'll do things like that to keep from wasting your guys' time with like impractical videos or stuff that does not work online. I would not make a video with things that do not work online. It's pointless. Shots fired. The last thing we need to talk about formally though is the transformation, Become Golden. This transformation doesn't give you any armor during the transformation, meaning that you most likely can't be broken by burst dashes, but if your opponent walks up to you, they can probably just stamina break you like it's nothing if the transformation doesn't like knock your opponent back. I wouldn't do this unless you like had a safe, like, you know, you had a safe transformation, so don't be the guy who just like up and transforms unless you know like your opponent's not gonna burst dash up to you, but it gives you an immediate speed boost and about a 30% damage increase to your Ki Blast supers. The most important features of the transformation though are the changes to your Ki Blast button. You can rapid fire Ki Blast by spamming the button or hold the button down to release a fast moving Death Beam type attack. We're going to call it Death Beam for the sake of this video, but it is not the super attack Death Beam, by the way. This Death Beam is actually very useful since it's affected by any charged Ki Blast based Super Soul. So an example would be the It's a Long Story Super Soul. It takes 1 bar of stamina from your opponent if a charged Ki Blast connects. When you're in your base form, this will work 100% of the time, and then when you use Turn Golden, this Death Beam attack will actually get this effect to drain your opponent's stamina when the charged Ki Blast hits, so that's cool. The effect of draining stamina carries over, and like certain Super Souls will not carry over, so something like Gotcha will not paralyze your opponent with a Death Beam. That would be incredibly broken if it did, but it doesn't. If you'd like to see the increase of damage on your Death Beam go up, basically use Super Souls like the Perfect Soul one that gives you like an extra large boost to damage of a charged Ki Blast in that case. We'll cover that in a build video a little bit later on in the week. You can do entire builds around Golden form thanks to this Death Beam alone, meaning that your other supers can be counters or like neat things to help you out in the neutral play. Like this is basically a transformation that is like only useful for a Blaster Frieza Race character though, unless you wanted your striker to have like a speed boost, you know. In that regard, it's like, it's okay. Now for some unbiased thoughts in closing on the Frieza Race characters, if you wanted to hear me talk about them. Unfiltered, unbiased, whatever. They don't have the most practical combos for online play, but their heavy string, step, and dash cancels give them some options for getting in and shredding a bit before having to pull back, and you can actually do a lot of movement in neutral, unlike the Frieza, not the Frieza Race, I think it was the female Saiyans, they needed help in neutral. I'm pretty sure it was them. That being said, the Golden Race transformation is great and can actually carry you damage-wise from the Death Beam alone since it doesn't take up a move slot in your preset. A Frieza Race character could bring carry tools or utility moves and do perfectly fine with the beam alone, and it doesn't even cost resources to fire it, so Golden form is kind of crazy and it can carry a Frieza Race character. We actually did see a submission in one of the showcases where a player was playing against a Frieza Race character just using this beam to get all of his damage off, and gotta say, the gap was crazy. I'm pretty sure you can actually do some confirms into this beam. You'll be seeing that in the build video a little bit later this week, if not tomorrow, so that's the thing. That being said, they aren't all bad. They have a great backswing that has some pretty good range, and it seems to prepare you to like a clash if you do end up whiffing, just because it stays around for a while, so that's cool. Frieza Race characters haven't really been on my radar as far as to who to keep on my CAC roster, but after playing them for this overview, I'm actually a bit disappointed. Xenoverse 2 always bugs me when potential is wasted on combos that weren't tested, and sure enough, they've pretty much reduced Frieza Race characters to like a 1 combo string sort of deal for damage. Namekians are one of the 8 CAC races. If you couldn't tell, the CACs are designed to be the next generation of fighters that far surpass Goku and the others. That being said, Namekians are heavy knockdown and range centric, with quite a few combos or neat little features that let them hit enemies from a distance around them or from afar. Add to the fact that these guys have the 2nd highest natural health value, health regeneration when they fall into danger, and the 3rd highest natural basic attack damage, you've got quite the beast on the battlefield. I won't be helping you build using any carry tools, meaning we're going to go for synergy when it comes to learning about the Namekian, and not abusable super attacks that take away from how much you have to perform to do well. Namekians have quite a few heavy knockdown combos that you can extend to or shorten to line your opponent up for free ultimate attacks while on the floor. I personally think that they need a little help earlier in their combo string since most of their cancels come in like after 4 or so hits. This is a minor complaint for me though, since like they can stand their ground and cover so much distance, but I've always been a fan of being able to like fall back with step cancels or like as early as possible without getting punished, you know, so I wanted to let you guys know off the bat you can combo into like Final Flash, Super Kamehameha, Special Beam Cannon, things as fast as those ultimate attacks without needing a stamina break at all. And to see the combos that you'll need to do those, they'll be a little bit later in the video, but for now, let's talk cancels. If they haven't popped up on the screen yet, you should know that Namekians have quite a few natural dash cancels and a step cancel or two. These guys don't have a practical guard cancel from what I've seen, but it's fine when you consider these guys have some pretty safe combo strings tucked away. Heavy, light, heavy is definitely one of the best options in the game since it naturally covers behind you if your opponent freaks out, and just tapping light after it if your opponent warped into the way gives you a dash or step cancel to like reset yourself and save yourself from getting punched in the back of your head. Personally, I feel like some of the Namekian combo enders are a bit long-winded for my taste, since they tend to get like have you doing like multi-hit setups or cinematics. So if it's like an issue you find yourself running into too, you can definitely create your own combo enders with super attacks. Speaking of which, Namekians have quite an underused gem in a unique skill that gives them free loops and resets. That skill, of course, is Namek Finger. You also have Evil Flight Strike as another one, and Darkness Rush is like your ranged ultimate attack. It's important to note that Evil Flight Strike is shared with male and female Majins as well, so if you wanted to use that on them, you definitely could. Namek Finger is an underused gem that Namekians have exclusively. You perform pretty much a far range grab that kind of pulls your opponent in to restand them, lining you up to reset your combo string from wherever you are as well, which is actually pretty neat, and you have quite a few confirms. Also, if your opponent does actually slip out of your combo, the skill can't be like blocked, so technically you can still use it even if they like guard mash, which is great, because like, you know, I can't recommend using it after a knockback because you'll always miss pretty much, but you do have a few natural parts in your combo strings you can confirm into it from that keep the hit counter going. Namekians can also use it on an opponent being sent into them in the helpless state, meaning if you wanted to like offensive vanish, which is basically pressing X at any point in your combo string, or I guess it would be A on the Xbox side, do it after a knockback and toss out Namek Finger to catch your opponent in midair. It's really cool, and you can use it after something like, say, Meteor Strike or Meteor Blow if your vanish part of that skill is working. You can actually do it after that, which looks really cool. This tool is super underrated, but you have to think outside the box to get the most out of Namekians on like a legitimate level, and not so much as I'm just using Aura Slide and Punisher Drive over and over. You know, like if you wanted to do cool stuff with Namekians, I think Namek Finger is a very good starting point. With Namek Finger being able to pretty much infinitely loop your opponent, you have a guaranteed way to ensure that they will burn stamina to snap vanish out of the way, or keep on taking that same combo that you're doing over and over to like chip away at them, which is great. It's great to have that pressure tool on like a character like a Namekian. Evil Flight Strike is a super easy way to cash out damage pretty much at any point in a combo string. It does moderate damage, but the recovery on this move is a bit too much for me. I don't like how long you have to stay around after using it, so I can't really recommend it. I feel like if you wanted to have something to sort of shred an opponent, it's fine, but there's not much of a follow-up you can do in terms of cashing out your damage. You have a lot of better alternatives that give you cancels to use like a Gigantic Omega, Finishing Blow, Dodon Ray, etc, etc. So this one isn't exactly too recommended from me, but it's definitely something that Namekians have like exclusive to them and Majins. Lastly, Darkness Rush, the range version, is a grapple attack that can snare your opponent up from a distance and give them a few hits before dumping out an I-beam at the end. I think this version of Darkness Rush is most consistent after a stamina break, to be honest, but I haven't really seen much of a reason to use this one on them like at all. The range part of the grab makes it a bit too gimmicky and too easy to drop in most situations, where something simple like a Super Kamehameha or something would have been like what you could have used the 3 bars of Ki on to get some damage out, you know. If you made it this far into the video, congratulations. Here's where we take it a step beyond and we talk about the real stuff. Namekians are dominant up close when they can get their combos off. They don't have access to early step cancels, so they can't dance around in neutral up close to male Saiyans or like male Earthlings. So that means your punishes when you counterattack are going to be your biggest tools. You also have great range as a Namekian and an amazing dash and light attack if you choose to be the aggressor. Counterattacks on almost any competitive non-carry tool build are pretty much going to be recommended from me as a given, but I think a really cool legitimate tool for Namekians can be backflip. It's a really good super attack that takes no ki on any race, but I think Namekians can use it probably to the most efficiency, just because they get caught up trying to smack around them and all that, you know. Your enemies will pretty much be trying to take advantage of when you miss, so having backflip on your moveset, like, of course it'll save you from trouble up close if you aren't running something like, I don't know, Phantom Fist or After Image. 2 other great counterattacks that you can have on your moveset as well. Namekians have great combo potential because of how strong that their knockback combos are in some cases. You can run moves like I-Beam from Android 16 to keep a punish going, or Mach Punch to create damage loops and dash cancel loops, or like Gigantic Omega for a late combo dash cancel. Like, one of my favorites for Namekians is probably going to be Dodon Ray, because it's like a restand for you, and you can step or dash cancel out of it like on command. So you can use it early on in combo strings and still kind of move around, which is greatness. It's actually greatness. Is it actually useful? Yes, it is. One of the biggest early things I was thinking about for Namekians is like building them to hit around the area with them, or the area around them with stuff like I I don't know, because you know that their combo strings hit in the 360 around them. So supers like Key Explosion or Mighty Explosive Wave can give you more coverage for keeping you safe, while still being a threat from all angles. Aerial denial skills like Genocide, Shell, and Ill Rain are pluses too from a universal standpoint, so you can definitely check those out for early builds for your Namekian as well. The last thing that we need to talk about like formally though, is the transformation. Become Giant is a beastly transformation, and it was one early on in Xenoverse 2. It kind of dropped all the way down because the stamina drain became a bit too much to handle in like practical situations. Now this thing is pretty much easily played around and countered thanks to the fact that you can be beaten out of it or just outran on some maps, but that's an option nonetheless if you want to use it. Your square and triangle buttons are replaced with a 3 or 4 hit jab combo and a long range whip respectively, and your circle button becomes a grab that kind of snares your opponent up and does a bit of damage before dropping them in place with a nice little thud, you know, a little hold that boy. You can flick the analog stick forward while doing your square jabs to unleash a secret command that knocks your opponent downward, and you can actually combo into it from these square jabs, and while flicking forward and pressing triangle gives you a long range whip attack that kind of knocks your opponent downward. The supers you get in this form are mostly there for combo potential. Just use the one that fits your situation best, example being the short range one after doing your square combo, etc, etc. Damage wise, you won't get much out of using this form, but you're immune to damage while transformed. While your stamina runs out, you revert and you kind of get stamina broken pretty much. One of the safest ways to use Become Giant in the current state of the game anyway is to carry Super Guard on your Namekian if you really wanted to use it. When your stamina breaks from the Giant Namekian form reverting, just use Super Guard and hold onto it until you're in the clear and transform again as soon as you recover. Remember, this form doesn't give you any crazy boost to your damage output, so it'll mostly be for style or show, or pretty much uniqueness, but you can actually overwhelm your opponent pretty much if they weren't expecting this thing at all on like a small map like say the World Tournament stage or like the Cell Games arena, letting you keep on punishing them with combos of about 4,000 damage or so until you get that win. So you definitely do have a way to use Become Giant. I think it's pretty cool if the stamina drain wasn't as beastly, or if the like they came out with like a Super Soul that kind of, you know, nerfed how much stamina you're losing per second. It'll probably be a little bit better, but it's still viable with like an asterisk, you know. Defensively, you can try using Become Giant to avoid incoming supers or ultimates that you think are going to hit you too hard without having to use like an evasive or super guard for wasting ki, you know, because the transformation is pretty fast. It's pretty quick, guys. It's pretty nice. Now for some unbiased thoughts on the Namekians. These characters are very well rounded, and from a range and damage standpoint, if they were as mobile as Earthlings or like male Saiyans, they'd definitely be disgustingly broken on their feet. Their heavy light, heavy combo is probably their best bet. And if you hang out close to the floor, you'll know exactly what I mean by that. It's super easy to forget about their regeneration as well, and that makes them pretty hard to kill if you have trouble cashing out your damage with like an ultimate attack or a super. Combo them with like super souls like Frieza's or Frost's to stay alive with like a pinch of health, and then recover up to a sizable pool to work with. They make these guys disgustingly frustrating to fight, but dangerously efficient. They're really cool. That being said, they aren't unbeatable. Namekians are like not as light on their feet as male Earthlings, Saiyans, Majins, or even some CAC characters, and for the most part, they leave themselves to be Ki Blast stunned if they whiff their attacks. Their combo enders are a bit long-winded and leave them at disadvantages if you warp out at the very end, but you gotta be careful dealing with a Namekian that has like their dash cancels down or like their super attack confirmed, because at that point you're gonna be getting hit pretty hard by things shaving off your health. I never stuck with like a Namekian character up until now, but they do feel a bit clunky with my playstyle of wanting like dash and step cancel all over the place. That of course can be fixed with Ki Blast cancels or a super attack cancel like Dodon Ray though, so you definitely have like things to get to work with them in an online setting, you know. Male Earthlings are one of the 8 CAC races. If you couldn't tell, the CACs are designed to be the next generation of fighters that far surpass Goku and the others. That being said, Male Earthlings are a fairly powerful race with some of the highest, if not the highest, combo potential in the game. These guys have at least one combo ender or dropping point for every type of situation, and this means you can do quite a bit of customization on your build. I won't be helping you guys build using any carry tools, meaning that we're going to go for synergy when it comes to learning about the Male Earthling and not abusable super attack to take away from how much you have to do to perform well. Male Earthlings are said to have the highest strike super damage, so for your points, if you like to see the greatest return, you can try focusing on speccing on strike supers. If you played online at all, you probably ran into a couple of these guys playing the exact same way with the exact same moveset. As far as originality goes, unfortunately there isn't much in Xenoverse 2 right now, and it's a shame because these guys can get some of the lesser used moves to work out very well with their combo strings. If they haven't popped on screen yet, you should know that Male Earthlings have an incredible number of natural dash cancels and step cancels. They've got a guard cancel, but the most obvious one you've probably seen is the light into heavy step cancel. To be fair, just about every CAC race has this cancel available, but the difference lies in how the cancel leaves the Male Earthlings and what it means for your opponent if the hit was successful. No matter where you're on the map, you can follow up with a light heavy step cancel with a charged heavy attack into an unavoidable stamina break. This means if your opponent doesn't snap vanish, they will be stamina broken and cannot escape it. And this thing can pretty much go on forever unless they like snap vanish right as they get their stamina back or they use an evasive skill. So that's nice. At least in the current state of the game around the time of this video dropping, that is the case. You could argue that the other races can do the same thing at the ceiling or the top of the map in some cases, but that creates a situational unavoidable break. Male Earthlings have universally confirmed into one that will work regardless of the stage you're on, so it's not exactly the same thing. These characters are the most boring to watch in my personal opinion because every match around them pretty much breaks down into light heavy step, light heavy step, light heavy step over and over until the unavoidable stamina break lands. Like, I'm sure this doesn't bother many other people, but I don't find much excitement in it myself. That being said, we'll go back to their combo potential real quick. These guys have quite a few confirms into a lot of ultimate attacks without needing a stamina break at all, meaning you don't have to play like how you've been seeing everyone else playing, especially with such a great arsenal available to you. A big reason I find Xenoverse 2 so boring these days is that no one is learning practical combos or searching for anything themselves. You don't have to break the game down into playing like the typical meta moveset over and over to win it all. In fact, if you think that, we can end the guide right here for you if that's all you're looking for, and I'll give you a moveset to run around and play with if you haven't been using it already. Punisher Drive, Mighty Explosive Wave, Aura Slide, Ill Rain, Energy Barrier for your evasive, Justice Combination, Dragon Fist. Just do the light heavy step the entire game and toss out like a random super attack every once in a while and you'll win. Don't worry. You don't have to worry about the stats at all. Have fun. On the other hand, the race does have some unique supers that you can try out if you want to break the mold, and it excels at having almost limitless possibilities with their combo strings. We'll talk about Earthling unique skills, Burning Slash and Shining Slash. These skills are also available on the Saiyan Race characters, so keep that in mind too. In regards to male Earthlings though, Shining Slash can be used as a combo ender or extension that restands enemies, and even turns into a step cancel. This means after performing one of your strong knockback combos, you can use this skill guaranteed to keep up that pressure. If the clip hasn't played yet, you'll see some combos into the Shining Slash, and this video isn't me telling you to put the skills on your character by the way, I'm just giving you legitimate tech with some of the skills that the other races cannot use. Burning Slash on the other hand has the same reset loop that Trunks can use for massive damage. It's a great skill when you know how to cut down the end lag. The Trunks skill analysis video breaks it down much deeper than I can for right now, but it's one of those skills that definitely fits well in a close quarters moveset. Male Earthlings can use it just fine, and since they excel at close quarters combat, it's definitely a good one for any of the would-be swordsmen out there. If you made it this far into the video, congratulations, this is where we take it a step beyond. Shout out to the boy Limbo for making fun of this line in every script. I see you. Male Earthlings have combo strings for just about every situation, and in most cases they can cancel out just about all of them. This means that this race is going to excel in close range combat. But even if you do want to sort of build distance or combo into Ki Blast Supers and Ultimates, you can do it all. You won't be getting the most bang for your points in Ki Blast Supers, but you have to remember that this is Xenoverse. If you want to use something and you've been thinking about using it, go ahead and use it. If you want to be original guys, don't be afraid to go out there and test out random moves. It's okay. Do not let the numbers make you like shy away from using things on your skill list. These guys can confirm just about everything without needing a stamina break thanks to having a stun state combo ender. The only other places you see the stun state enders are going to be on CAC characters. You've seen the stun state in the combo strings of Hit and Super Saiyan 4 Goku most likely, but they do appear on the strings of Rose, Vegito Blue, and Kid Gohan just to name a few. The stun state lets you combo into supers that might have a bit of a cast time, so think along the lines of any skills with like startup time similar to like Drain Charge, Super Dragon Flight, Raccoon Kick, anything you have to like do a warp combo to confirm into for the most part. Anything with a bit of time that you need to wait for it to fire, those would be the ones that these guys can combo into very easily. This stun won't combo into everything, but you have much more variety and options you can use with the male Earthling than you have on any other race thanks to it. Being able to cancel your combo strings as early as you can on this race and having generally one-to-one combo strings means you'll be in control during most close quarter fights. You become even more dangerous if you've added Ki Blast cancel to your toolkit and have fast fingers and reaction time. This race is definitely an easy way out for a high level player, and having access to the busted super attacks of the month and such early safe cancel options can literally carry players who aren't necessarily good in other areas. The biggest telling factor is if a person who like plays a male Earthling with the fresh from YouTube meta set struggles to win with any other race or has to rely on generally top tier CAC characters among other CAC characters, or is just laughably bad in like the tournaments and stuff with the lesser used CAC characters, it's kinda obvious. I can greatly respect players like Kashami or Limbo who not only try to experiment with different supers for their Earthlings, but they go out and play and win very convincingly with characters like Kid Gohan, Tien, Piccolo, etc, etc. The last thing we need to talk about formally though is going to be the transformation, Power Pole Pro. This transformation is definitely an easy one to overlook, but packs quite a few hidden punches that you probably wouldn't expect. It has a super soul to give it armor if you really wanted to use it, but just like the Sword of Hope, you can be knocked out of it by being grabbed or hit with one of those command grab type supers like Super God Fist or Savage Strike. This thing gives you a great speed boost and has some pretty nice iframes when trying to pull off a step, which turns into a loop evasive maneuver that looks kind of funny. While moving on the Nimbus Cloud you can block, which is pretty nice, but your guard becomes almost invaluable when you realize that you can guard cancel the combos that you can pull off by mashing the square button or triangle button after dashing it on PS4. On Xbox it's either X or Y. You guys know this already though. Come on. Guys, come on. It's kind of easy to mix yourself up because your power pole combo is linked to both buttons, so keep that in mind too. You can pull off a radial backswing while on the Nimbus as well, and a far range sweep by pressing forward and the heavy attack button at the same time. Your key blast is changed into a far range poke from the power pole, which is neat I guess, but to be honest it's something that you can get used to with a bit of practice. It's not that bad, but it's okay. You can check out gameplay using the power pole pro in PvP on the Homie Perfections channel, which he pretty much shows you anything practical that you need to know about it in combat. Put your immaturity aside. If you dislike him, just dislike him, and watch to learn something in these types of videos. I'm giving you guys references so you can learn. Now for some unbiased thoughts in closing on male Earthlings. Looking at their combo strings and cancels, these guys can easily dominate close quarters combat. They can confirm it to many of the hard-hitting supers and even Sledgehammer without having lag being a factor that you have to worry about at all. Their damage output is phenomenal in terms of melee, and even though their key blast damage output leaves a little bit to be desired, it's not bad enough for me to tell you to stay away from key blast damage altogether. Male Earthlings can just about recreate any effective DPS set from the cast, and improve on them thanks to their access to just about all of the combo enders, and their utility. That being said, they aren't unbeatable. Most Earthlings are very predictable and will use the same combo string, the light heavy cancel, and the universal carry tools to pretty much get by on like ranked and player matches, so that's the thing. It stops being about making your own character and having fun with all the tools, and turns into a weird sort of acceptance of things are broken and I want to win so bad, I'm going to play like everyone else to get it done, on a grand scale. That isn't me saying that Earthlings are an instant win button, it's just disappointing how the game turned out in the very end, you know? It's kind of like, it would have been cool if everyone was kind of out there doing their own thing and having fun with all these crazy moves that we have access to, but hey, you know, it's just, what do we expect in a game like this where you could create your own characters and snatch things up from everyone else? I learned a few no break confirms for male Earthlings that I didn't even know existed, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Female Earthlings are one of the 8 CAC races. If you couldn't tell, the CACs are designed to be the next generation of fighters that far surpass Goku and the others. That being said, I had a lot of fun messing around with the female Earthlings, and they've got some great tools and nice looking combo strings. If you are familiar with Videl on the cast, you'll pretty much feel right at home when you're playing as a female Earthling. Full disclosure, I had to make the character you're seeing on an entirely new PSN. This means that I'll be giving you references to specific super attacks throughout the audio with no video, just because I'm not going to sit here and grind for more moves than I already did on the second PSN. Again, I did not forget the skills. If they aren't shown here, I'm just not going to grind for them for a second time. You can find any skills I mentioned in this video in their appropriate skill analysis videos with in-depth analysis there. That being said, I won't be helping you build with any carry tools, meaning that we're going to go for synergy when it comes to learning about female Earthlings and not abusable super attacks that take away from how much you need to do to perform well. That being said, female Earthlings show up with several warping cinematic combos and knockback combos that give them some great synergy with skills that need a bit of startup or are nearly impossible to combo into otherwise. You can compare their warping combos into super attacks into female Saiyans to pretty much the same results. Female Earthlings have the second highest natural ki blast super damage and the 4th highest natural health value. Their placement everywhere else is a bit low unfortunately, so I wouldn't sweat it too much because of their potential as CAC. You can do pretty much whatever you want to with a CAC, so Naturally, Earthlings recover ki over time and they receive a 5% boost in their outgoing damage when their ki is at max as well. If they haven't popped up on screen yet, you should know that female Earthling characters have a lot of natural dash, guard, and step cancels. They've got several ways to extend or stop their combo short, and one hell of a fraudulent backswing. I wouldn't say they have as much mobility as their male counterparts, and the light heavy step cancel they pull off sometimes triggers an entirely different ender that you can't cancel out of, but for the most part they're very fun to mess around with and can definitely get stuff going up close, you know? You have several warp cinematic break confirms that can even combo into things like Whirlwind Blade, God of Destruction's Wrath, Time Skip Molotov, the Rose Kamehameha, the Super Black Kamehameha, like things like that, things along that nature. This is all stuff we covered in the female Saiyan video, but the confirms are basically universal off of the warping cinematics. At close range, it's fairly easy to get in and mix up with your opponent. Just like any other character, ki blast stuns open up your opponent to get comboed. If you're scared that you're going to be outsped up close, you can play a sort of bait and punish deal or carry a counter attack to cancel your recovery in most cases. We've got race unique skills that are shared with Saiyans in Shining Slash and Burning Slash. Burning Slash is a super attack that we covered that pretty much can extend any non-cinematic combo at any point, and the advanced mechanic lets you combo directly into it without its startup, which is great in itself as a combo extension or an alternate ender. Add to the fact that the Burning Slash can be looped by holding down forward as the slashes end to cancel your end lag, and you'll be doing perfectly fine with this thing on a blaster or melee oriented character. It doesn't really matter, you know? It's not a bad super by any means, and it can really get rack damage for you before a stamina break like it would on Trunks, or even after it if you wanted to just be that guy who like shaved off 10,000 health from your opponent in like a record time, you know? If you wanted it for a strike super oriented female Earthling, it's definitely an option that's viable. Shining Slash, on the other hand, is a super that you can use to close distance between you and a distant enemy by charging it. Activating it by itself normally just lets you fire off a quick slash at a medium range, but the recovery after using it this way is a bit long-winded. I'm not a big fan of having too much recovery after super, so After using the fully charged version of Shining Slash though, you do get a step cancel to immediately switch up your offense or continue your punish, or even grab immediately after, so you have a lot of good options after the Shining Slash is fully charged. And it's a great skill that you can even combo into using the female Earthling combo strings, which is another plus. If you made it this far into the video, congratulations. Here's where we take it a step beyond and focus a little bit more. I think female Earthlings have very good combos for dominating close range play regardless of what their damage numbers look like. You have various ways of putting pressure on the opponent with cancels, and the fact that they have such great innate Ki Blast super damage means that you can cash out at any point for very good bursts of damage in your combo strings if you do want to be a Ki Blaster sort of a female Earthling. While they're not like as mobile as their male Earthlings or like male Earthlings early on in their combo strings, their backswing covers them for an uncharacteristically long time. It's like damn near Gogeta level of fraudulence. Like it's really crazy. And of course, we got a little notification. But why not? You gotta understand, playing as a female Earthling will give you an innate advantage that you would also find on male Majins, where the people that you're fighting against won't really know what to expect from your combo strings because they're not seen often enough. I don't think that they're all that common in the online circuit. And of course, that's a great advantage to have to make your opponent burn their stamina out of fear of what comes next. You have some good knockback impulses on some of your combo strings, and even a heavy knockdown, or like a heavy knockdown or two sealed away that you can tap into as well. You can confirm into Super Kamehameha, Special Beam Cannon, etc., for free without any gimmicks, just from your combo strings alone, which is great to have in case you don't feel like you can kill off your opponent in a single stamina break, or you want to show off and beat your opponent without stamina breaks at all. I'm not exactly sure what everyone's been doing on the CACs up until now because I haven't seen any no-break confirms. I guess they just wait for these things to pop up online, so I'll just assume there hasn't been much real time put into the training mode at this point. But hey, regardless, they're here for you to use if you'd like to. I wouldn't be surprised if people complained about using ultimates without needing a stamina break, during a stamina breaking at all, pressing triangle, breathing. It's whatever at this point. What do you expect from this community, you know? Even if your enders act a bit wonky online, you do have some points in your combos that let you cash out with some supers that come to mind. Like you could do like Mach Punch, beams, location marking supers like Flash Strike, even supers that chase down like knockback opponents like Rocket Tackle, Divine Retribution, Savage Strike, etc., etc. I personally won't respect using carry tools on something like a female Earthling because you have literally everything lined up for you to just be creative. Again, at this point, I don't really care. The community is going to do what they do, or what they deem necessary to win by any means in Xenoverse. I guess it's that important, so hey, be on the lookout for that. The last thing we need to talk about formally though is the transformation, Power Pole Pro. This transformation is definitely easy to overlook, but packs quite a few punches that you probably wouldn't expect. It has a super soul to give it armor if you really wanted to use it, but just like the Sword of Hope, you can be knocked out of it by being grabbed or hit with one of those supers like Savage Strike or Super God Fist to just knock you out of it. So that's a huge minus on it if you're not careful. This thing gives you a great speed boost with some pretty nice iframes when trying to pull off the step, which turns into like a loop evasive maneuver that looks pretty funny, but it's kind of nice as well. While moving on the Nimbus Cloud, you can also block, which is pretty nice. I don't think any other race allows you to block and move at the same time, so that's a pretty neat tool. But again, it becomes even more invaluable when you realize that you can guard cancel the combos that you get by mashing the square button or triangle button after dashing in on your opponent. So at any point in those combos, you can pretty much just press the block button to cancel out of that and get to moving again instead of getting stuck in the animation. I don't think the actual Power Pole combo skill lets you do this, but it's something you can test out. It's pretty nice. I like it, as a matter of fact. It's pretty easy to mix yourself up though, because your Power Pole combo is linked to both buttons. You can get it by pressing square after dashing in, or triangle as well. And square also does this sort of medium range poke flurry to your opponent that ends with a far range poke that does not true combo. So I don't know if you want to go all the way through with that. It's a good thing for like pressuring or stuffing your opponent's attacks or like bothering them, but again, it's not really there for damage, I wouldn't imagine. You can also pull off a radial backswing while on the Nimbus Cloud as well, and a far range sweep by pressing forward and the heavy attack button at the same time. Your Ki Blast is changed to a far range poke from the Power Pole, which is neat, I guess, but to be honest, it's something that you can kind of get used to with a bit of practice. You can check out the gameplay using Power Pole Pro in PvP on the homie Perfection's channel, where he pretty much shows you anything practical you need to know about it in combat. Put your immaturity aside if you dislike him for the sake of just disliking him and watch to learn something, and you probably will learn something about the Power Pole Pro that you didn't think about. Now for some unbiased thoughts in closing on female Earthlings. They're fairly underrepresented online, which is a great bonus for playing them. Your opponent won't be too familiar with your combo strings, and this is something that can be shared with male Majins. They're open to just about any sort of build you choose to go with because of their various combo enders and situations that they leave themselves in. and even combo into some of the lesser used ultimate attacks immediately thanks to their combos and how they set them up. They have one of the most practical combo sets in the game, as a sort of middle ground for female Saiyans and male Earthlings, it being the best description I can give you. Female Saiyans being the damage and the warp combo potential that they have, and male Earthlings being the sort of close range dominant feel you get without having to do too much of the knocking your opponent around sort of deal to get stuff going. There's some inconsistency in a certain early step cancel that leaves you like completely out of control sometimes when I was testing them, and that's something that might hurt you if you're more into playing mobile opposed to guard mashing like how I play. I like to move around a lot. I don't like sitting there and looking kind of goofy pressing block over and over. But again, if it's something that you don't really care about because you block mash, by all means, it's up to you. You're going to do what you want to do. You'll still be safe. You know, you don't have to worry about that too much. But I would imagine that these subtle differences in cancels, damage, and combos are the reasons why you would want to play one race over the other in the first place, you know. Male Majins are one of the 8 CAC races. If you couldn't tell by now, the CACs are designed to be the next generation of fighters that far surpass Goku and the others. That being said though, male Majins might be the one race that's a little bit on the side. If you're still learning the ins and outs of Xenoverse 2, that is. These guys aren't at all set up to be the hardest hitters or the fastest on the battlefield, but if you're looking for a tanky race that you can play at your own pace, bars, I know I got bars, I'm kind of a rapper, new mixtape coming out November 11th, you've got one here. I'm letting you know right now that the male Majin is the hardest race to play well in the entire game in my opinion. It requires a lot more focus and punishes you much more severely than other races you can choose from. So much so, in fact, the rewards for playing them feel kinda well deserved. Think about it like this, getting stamina broken on any race is kinda bad. Now imagine any damage you take while below 3 bars of stamina, or stamina broken is literally increased by 250%. Welcome to male Majins, that's actually what happens. It's crazy. I won't be helping you build using any carry tools, meaning that we're going to go for synergy when it comes to learning about the male Majin, and not abusable super attacks that take away from how much you have to do to perform and do well. That being said, for a more offensive take on the Majin race, you might want to try out the female counterpart. They have access to a majority of the male Majin tools, and are closer to the male Earthlings in terms of execution and cancels. Male Majins can play offensively just fine, but you have to refine your neutral play so that you're a master of baiting enemy attacks. Oh my god, I just said master of baiting. Is this really part of the gym? It's part of the script. And punishing overzealous opponents. You can't afford to get too hungry for offense and then lose your stamina because you got mixed up. If they haven't popped on screen yet, you should know male Majins have a few natural dash, step, and guard cancels. I'm sure I haven't outlined all of them here, so these are just a few to get you guys up and running. They have the light heavy step cancel most other CACs have to keep them mobile, and a couple of dash cancels that you can use to create some loops on your opponent. Be careful with some of your dashing entries though, since these guys don't exactly have far ranged for their dash attack. It's kind of a short range thing, and it might throw you off a little bit, as a matter of fact, if you can't gauge distance good enough on them. As a trade-off, you do have quite a bit of stamina break confirms that are easy to get into and connections that are decent. And their damage output, even though it isn't anything crazy, is moderately high/high average, which is a plus, I would say, for them. A lot of your combos also end up hitting around you, much like the Namekian combo strings, which is great if you catch an opponent who snap vanish trying to rush in on you. One of your biggest advantages of playing a male Majin is that your opponent will not know your combo strings in most cases. You rarely see these guys online, so like who exactly is going to say that they know everything these guys can do? So I think that's it's a pretty big plus to have combos no one knows about. They might snap vanish early, they might bump into things, you know, so that's always going to be an amazing tool there. We're going to cover all their unique super attacks briefly before we hit some of the advanced stuff, so stay with me. It's going to be quite a bit. Like I mentioned earlier, these guys technically have the most race unique super attacks in the game, and unfortunately a lot of what they got does leave a bit to be desired. Don't worry, purification is in this video right after these super attacks, so if you guys want to just skip ahead or you want to sit through the super attacks, by all means, let's get it popping. The first one we're going to cover is in fact going to be Majin Kamehameha. It's basically the same as regular Kamehameha type skills or Gallic Gun. It's just a recolored beam that is like purplish or pink. It doesn't seem to have any advanced mechanics outside of being able to be charged, and the guard pressure it does isn't even anything crazy either. Male Majins have trouble confirming into this thing consistently outside of a few situational ones, so I wouldn't really recommend it. You don't really get much like as a cash out from it, you know, especially not in the way that I would play a male Majin, so it's definitely here if you want to use it, but again, I wouldn't recommend it. Ill Bomber, on the other hand, is without a doubt their most useful super attack. The player explodes, you get rid of enemy targeting, and you can move around the screen while you're invisible. This is invaluable on larger maps where you need to get a breather, and even cooler when you realize that this is an armored skill that prevents you from flinching during the startup. Your stamina recovery is definitely paused while invisible, but I'm pretty sure your health recovery isn't, meaning if you have some method of healing while out of your opponent's line of sight, you'll be safe to recover health over time. Now, I won't go over it too much in detail here because we have a lot to get over, but we're going to talk about this one a little bit later in this week's build videos. Just know this is a great skill to at least mess around with, and I gotta say, you gotta understand. Explosive Boo Boo Punch, why I name it, that is a strike super that these guys can use as an alternative. Warp combo ender or during jumps. It has a brief startup and it doesn't exactly hit for anything spectacular on these guys, so I'd pass on it for the most part, but I can see it doing pretty good on the female counterpart. One, because they have so many warp combos you can practically just throw this thing out, and two, they have the second highest natural strike super damage in the game, so they could probably turn it into something useful. Any use this thing has on male Majins aside from being unique are most likely covered by other supers that better sync up with how these guys are built. Way better than how this thing can work. So unfortunately, Explosive Boo Boo Punch is probably boo boo on the male Majins. Candy Beam, this is an evasive that turns your opponent into chocolate, and they can't hit you for 5 to 6 seconds. It's decent, but fairly telegraphed. If your opponent is just mashing away at their buttons though, this thing works wonders. It's a close range evasive, obviously, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. You can combine it with a Super Soul designed for it to buff its effects even more. Turn into Candy is the name of the Super Soul, and it makes it so when you use this thing, regardless of if it hit your opponent or not, you get back 1 bar of ki and a bit of stamina so you're closer to getting it back again. It's a pretty decent setup if you'd like to go for it with these guys, I guess, but again, it's not really something that you gotta really worry about. The Super Soul, I mean, the evasive is actually kind of cool. Evil Flight Strike, I saw this one in the Namekian overview, and my thoughts on it haven't really changed much. It's not that good of a move, and it has a lot of room for error. It can drop your opponent out of the combo. It's kind of wonky. It's too gimmicky. It relies on like juggling and going upward at the same time. It's really weird. On a race, this dead set on playing and using your resources effectively, that's kind of a bad thing. Blowing ki on a move like this probably wouldn't be the best bet. Again, female Majins might be able to make it useful, but even on them, I would say be cautious of how you're using up your super attack slots and resources. Zigzag Express is a pretty neat move that comes just short of being amazing. You can use this skill as a sort of armored mobility deal to get out of sticky situations. If your opponent snap vanishes and try to immediately attack you, this thing is great for covering you, and my biggest issue is that you can't control where you move all that well when you activate it. It seems to protect you from incoming projectiles somewhat, and can even beat out skills that like that command grab do, like Burning Strike, when they come into contact, which is pretty insane. If you watch the Worlds Collide video where I was using Fat Boo, you probably saw me using it to cover myself, or in the first SSJAipom Exposed video, I was fighting a Fat Boo as Goku, and I kept bumping into this thing. So Zigzag Express is kind of cool. The drop rate on this move is trash, though. Like, guys, it's trash. Don't even try to get it. It's trash. The drop rate is garbage. Boo Boo Ball, come on guys, is an evasive that bounces you away from your opponent 3 times before setting you up to immediately move around again. There's almost no recovery on this thing, and it leaves your opponent helpless long enough for you to get to your bearings safely, which I gotta say is really good. It's a pretty good evasive at close range and does decently well at getting you out of ultimates from your enemies. I think it's one of the better ones that they have, like exclusively, so that's cool. Quick Sleep is a super that lets you stand still for a bit to recover some health rapidly while holding the button down. You can also tap it for a moderate burst of health that isn't really worth the recovery in my opinion, because the recovery period where you're just standing there after you get the heal is kind of long, so you get punished. This would be a great one for PvE stuff where your opponent kind of gets knocked away from you and you like, they're not focused on you so you can heal. But outside of that, I wouldn't really see a point in having it on a set unless you're able to keep on blowing your opponent back on the map or something. But even then, this is definitely a skill that would be taking up a move slot and you could have put something a little bit more valuable on, you know. If you made it this far into the video, congratulations. Here's where we take it a step beyond into the darkest, deepest troves of being male Majins. Male Majins definitely have a sort of nuance to them that makes playing them like a feat in itself. You know, it's very easy to just give up on something that isn't easy to pick up and run with. But it's kind of lame to do that to male Majins from the standpoint of someone imagining all of the CACs working as intended in the online space. Of course, in Xenoverse 2, everything working as intended is a dream that's not going to happen in the current state of the game. And these guys, I have a soft spot for them, and I have a very soft spot for them because they're second to none when it comes to like defense. But in that lies some of their main legitimate issues, their damage potential not being as high or varied as some of the other races at high level play. These guys struggle to combo into ultimates that aren't either strikes or the universal confirms, since they got some of the weakest combo impulses, but not exactly as bad as the Frieza Race ones. Second worst for sure though, but for them all hope isn't lost because you can technically have 2 sets of combo strings. The last thing that we need to talk about formally is the transformation purification. This transformation effectively throws out most of what you've established about the character out of the window, and in the male Majin's case, this is both a somewhat positive and mostly negative things. For starters, you immediately begin to take 25% more damage while in this transformation as a female Majin, but on male Majins you instantly take 32% more damage. But you dish out 20% more as far as basic attack goes. Your Ki Blast super damage gets a 15% increase, and your strike super damage gets a 12.5, basically 13% increase, respectively. Unfortunately, you still keep the low stamina defense passive, meaning if your stamina falls too low, below 3 bars, you're going to take even more damage. This bit of information alone should let you know that Purification isn't worth using on a male Majin from a competitive standpoint. I say competitive very, very loosely. Let's talk about some more of what the transformation does exactly though. Your step is replaced with a strange hop that your character does with some iframes. It definitely takes some getting used to, and it's a bit jarring if you haven't practiced it. I think I still prefer the regular untransformed step just because it's easier to work with and stay mobile with, and you have more control over your iframes in my opinion. You lose the ability to burst dash at first glance, but it's actually because your square and triangle button change functions while you're transformed. You can tap square while far away to do a sort of rolling attack, and tap triangle to perform the burst dash as it used to be done. It's just a burst dash to close distance. Double trap triangle. Guys, we got trap triangles in here. What the hell is a triangle? Hashtag triangle in the chat. I'm dying. Double tap triangle to do a proper reverse burst dash to loop around your opponent's back like usual. Holding the square button lets you perform a spin dash, and you can let go of the square to burst towards your opponent. If you charge your spin dash enough to a high enough level, you'll actually break your opponent's stamina on impact. You lose the ability to Ki Blast cancel, but gain an infinite range sort of portal stomp attack that pretty much hits your opponent so long as you're able to target them. That being said, you can use this to annoy your opponent or add an additional 5 attacks to any one of your combos that can link directly into it. You also gain access to a sort of buzzsaw attack you can use by holding one of the attack buttons down while flying around with the L2 button. The buzzsaw attack does take Ki over time, so be mindful of it. I'm pretty sure even bumping into your opponent while flying around with the L2 will knock them back. So this is one that you kind of have to test out. Again, synergy-wise, Purification isn't your best bet for male Majins. They require stamina and are punished harshly if you mess up or fall too far below. So this thing increasing how much damage you take, and then bringing you down to that danger zone by itself is insanely bad synergy-wise, and especially bad against a player who knows what to do to finish you off with or without a break. It's much better suited for female Majins since they get stamina back fast while broken, meaning it could be a means of just resetting for them. The most annoying nitpick I have with this transformation though is the fact that it just turns you into a clone of Kid Buu that loses stamina over time, and you can't Ki Blast cancel. You get his combo strings and his supers, and it's just like, I'm not a fan of Kid Buu or his super attacks in setups in this game. It just doesn't feel hype enough for me, and the ultimates are too wonky for my taste. It feels like a very half-ass solution for like giving these guys a transformation. That is just Kid Buu in my opinion. And I think in closing on this thing, their guard becomes a sort of iframe dodge that is like way more effective with online lag and latency. I don't know if I covered it earlier, but yeah, you can just keep on tapping the block button to kind of do a goofy looking dance. Looks stupid, but it's definitely straight from the show, so I respect it. If you want to mess around with the Purification dodge to stall out the time and all that, you can definitely do that. It's an option. It wastes time, but it's an option. So if you want to get used to the Purification combo strings, again, it's pretty much just Kid Buu. Try them out in training mode or just use Kid Buu for all that. But you gotta know that Kid Buu does have the ability to Ki Blast cancel out of his combo strings, but Purification does not have the ability to Ki Blast cancel. That cuts down mobility a lot that you might have had on Kid Buu, and you have to get used to the other cancels that you might have, otherwise you're gonna be losing mobility. So at the same time, it's like, do you really want to give up mobility to just be a Kid Buu that can't keep, like, you know, it's very weird. You gotta understand, guys, you gotta understand. Now for some straight up unbiased thoughts in closing on male Majins, alright? These characters have the highest difficulty curve thanks to their innate passive. Based on your stamina conservation, you'll either be reducing or increasing incoming damage, and newer players or players that struggle with learning how to control their pace in neutral will have a bad time with male Majins, and should probably steer clear. This is definitely a race that needs a bit more practice and understanding of mechanics, cancels, and combo strings. You can't play a male Majin character the same as you would play the other characters in the game because of the looming threat of that incoming damage increase. The more aggressive you are, the more likely you are to make a mistake, and you're going to get punished for it because you're not actually refining your neutral play. Instead, you're trying to play them like a race as mobile as, say, a male Earthling or a Saiyan, and that will mess you up in the long run. I wouldn't say that these characters are bad though. They're kind of punished a bit too harshly in my opinion when their stamina is low, considering no other race has crazy negatives like that. But playing with something kind of limiting how crazy you can get with blowing your resources definitely is a testament to your skill, a term I'm going to use very loosely in Xenoverse 2. These are characters that are easily overshadowed by just about every other race, every other cast character at high level play, because confirms don't come so easy to them. You can be danced around by all the cancels, etc, etc. But that's with the mindset that you have to play these guys like any other race or character. You don't. In fact, you kind of get punished for playing like every other race or character. You got to kind of build around your strengths and weaknesses and change your mentality. And I promise that the things will open up to you entirely. Female Majins are one of the 8 CAC races. If you couldn't tell, the CACs are designed to be the next generation of fighters that far surpass Goku and the others. That being said, female Majins from a stat and passive standpoint definitely do rank high in terms of their placement with optimal builds and setups. They arguably have the best racial passive with their stamina recovery when broken, and their strike super damage is naturally ranked as the second highest, only coming behind male Earthlings. I won't be helping you guys build using any carry tools, meaning that we're going to go for synergy when it comes to learning about the female Majin, and not abusable super attack to take away from how much you have to perform to do well. That being said, I won't ignore the fact that the CAC race is being heavily abused right now. I saved female Majins and male Earthlings for last because I had a feeling no matter what we went over in their videos, nothing will change. The community is a little bit too damaged at this point, and a majority of players using them right now have simplified playing the race to boring gimmicks or repeating the same 2 or 3 things over and over in a fight. That's very fun, very fun. If they haven't popped up on screen yet, you should know that female Majins have quite a few natural dash, step, and guard cancels. I'm sure that I haven't outlined them all here, so these are just a few to get you guys up and running with the characters online. They have the light heavy step cancel most other CACs have to keep them mobile, and a couple of dash cancels you can use to create some loops on your opponent. They have quite a few interesting points that they can cancel out of their combos as well, and some of the tracking on their combos is kind of fraudulent and very lenient, meaning if your opponent snap vanishes, there is a very high chance they'll still be smacked again, effectively wasting their stamina, which is crazy. Their combo strings synergize greatly with strike supers, especially ones that let you dash cancel at their endings, so be on the lookout for skills like Gigantic Omega or Mach Punch for some sick situations. I'll have some synergy examples a little bit later in the clips in the background. If you guys didn't know about these guys, you can check the background footage for things that I'm not talking about currently to get like a visual, and listen to the audio for the other guide portion. It's like 2 guides in one, you know. I'm here for you guys. I'm here for you guys. We're going to cover all their unique super attacks briefly before we hit some of the advanced stuff, so stay with me. It's going to be a bit, they don't have all the super attacks usable on like the male Majins, but they do have quite a bit of nice skills, I would say, that are shared between the two of them. So let's get it started. Majin Kamehameha is basically the same as the regular Kamehameha skill or Gallet Gun, recolored to like a purplish pink beam. It doesn't seem to have any advanced mechanics outside of being able to be charged, and the guard pressure it does isn't anything crazy or anything like that either. Female Majins have quite a bit of confirms into it, unlike their male counterpart, but you should know naturally female Majins have the lowest Ki Blast super damage, meaning even with points in the stat, it definitely won't be hitting very hard in comparison to other skills. Ill Bomber is without a doubt the Majin's most useful super attack. The player explodes, gets rid of enemy targeting, and you can move around the screen while invisible. This is invaluable on larger maps where you need a breather, and even cool when you realize that this is an armored skill that prevents you from flinching during the startup. Your stamina recovery is definitely paused while invisible, but if your stamina broken, you can use this thing to safely get your stamina back. Female Majins benefit greatly from self-stamina breaking as a strategy thanks to their passive, so if you really wanted to be super safe during breaks, this is an option. It's probably best suited for the male Majin counterpart though because of its armor. We went over them last week if you didn't get to check that out. So if you are interested in checking out male Majins, shameless plug, go watch those videos, guys. Explosive Boo Boo Punch is a strike super that these ladies can combo into. It has a brief startup, but on female Majin it hits for some pretty decent damage. The skill definitely has some great guard pressure if your opponent is block mashing, but like we predicted in the male Majin video, it does hit decently hard with females. There are other generic options that will be more practical, but if you wanted to make a Luffy cosplay or something, this is probably your best bet. They definitely have more confirms into it than the male counterparts to like drive the point home, like, hey, they can use this thing if you really wanted to. Candy Beam, it's an evasive that turns your opponent into chocolate that can't hit you for 5 to 6 seconds. It's decent, but fairly telegraphed. If your opponent is mashing away at their buttons though, this thing works wonders. You can combine it with like a Super Soul designed for it to buff its effects even more. I think it's called Turn Into Candy. And it makes it so when you use this thing, regardless of if you hit your opponent or not, you get back 1 bar of ki and a bit of stamina so you're closer to getting it back again. It's a pretty decent setup if you'd like to go for it with these females, but hey, it's a thing. Evil Flight Strike, we saw this one in the Namekian overview and in the male Majin overview, and my thoughts on it have not changed at all. It's not that good of a move and has a lot of room for error. Female Majins have a couple of confirms into it and one that looks like it sets it up decently well. If the entire thing hits, the damage is pretty good on female Majins, but it's definitely a combo ender, not a skill that you can go out of to continue your combo thanks to the recovery at the end of it. So, again, it has better options, better choices, and it's a little bit gimmicky. I'm not a big fan of gimmicks on Xenoverse 2 in terms of like basic super attacks, you know, like, so that's the thing. Boo Boo Ball is an evasive that bounces you away from your opponent 3 times before setting you up to immediately move around again or use a super attack, anything like that. There's no recovery on this thing, and it leaves your opponent helpless long enough for you to get your bearings. It's pretty good at close range and does decently well at getting you out of ultimates from your enemies too. So like if you wanted to use this, it's kind of nice. And Quick Sleep is a super that lets you stand still for a bit to recover some health rapidly while holding the button down. You can also just tap it for a moderate burst of health that isn't really worth the recovery in my opinion. This would be great for like PvE, but outside of that I don't really see a point in having it on a set unless you're able to keep blowing your opponent back on a really big map or something like that. But even then it's like definitely a skill that would be taking up a move slot you could have something else more valuable on. So there are definitely Super Souls or other setups that do its job for it, you know? If you made it this far into the video though, congratulations. Here's where we take it a step beyond and we're out of the boring stuff. They've got some strong combo impulses that just come shy of firing ultimates like Super Kamehameha off without needing a break. That being said, you can combo directly into ultimates that you'd be able to use after warps in your combos. I'd say your best bet is to go with Strike Super Ultimates though, if you wanted to see like the highest bang for your stat points. Dragon Fist, Justice Combination, Spirit Sword, Burning Strike, anything along those lines is definitely fine with these characters. At this point in Xenoverse 2's life cycle, people are going to cry about everything you do, and it's most likely amplified when you're playing a CAC like female Majin or male Earthling. Their reputation is greatly damaged by people playing them a specific way, and it's far too late to fix it, unfortunately. You know, like at this point, if Dimps isn't going to do anything about it, it's going to keep on happening until the game completely dies off, and I think it's on its way out. The last thing we need to talk about formally though is the transformation. Purification. For starters, you immediately begin to take 25% more damage while in the transformation, but dish out 20% more as far as basic attack goes. Your Ki Blast super damage gets a 15% increase, and your Strike super damage gets a 13% increase respectively. This transformation is a much better fit for female Majins thanks to their stamina break recovery speed. Letting yourself get broken by it means a free stamina refill basically, meaning it's decent to use while at like pretty low in your stamina if your build revolves around it. And I'd say that's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. Let's talk some more about what the transformation does exactly though. Your step is replaced with a strange hop your character does with some iframes. It definitely takes some getting used to though, and it's a bit jarring if you haven't practiced it. I think I do like prefer the regular untransformed step just because it's a little bit easier to work with and stay mobile with. You lose the ability to burst dash at first glance, but it's actually because your square and triangle button change functions when you are transformed. You can tap the square while far away to do a rolling attack, and tap triangle to perform a burst dash to close in distance. Double tap the triangle to do a proper reverse burst dash to loop around your opponent's back like usual. Holding the square button down lets you perform a spin dash, and you can let go of the square button to burst towards your target. If you charge the spin dash to a substantial enough level, it will break your opponent's stamina on impact. You lose the ability to Ki Blast cancel but gain an infinite range sort of portal stomp attack. You can use this to annoy your opponent or add an additional 5 attacks to any of your combos that can link into it. You also gain access to a sort of buzzsaw attack that you can use by holding one of the attack buttons down while flying around with the L2 button. The buzzsaw attack does take Ki over time though, so be mindful of it. I'm pretty sure even bumping into your opponent while flying around with the L2 will knock them back, so this is one of the things you'll have to test out and get used to. It's nice to have it as an option for a Majin character if you wanted to mix things up, and of course Kaioken is completely viable for the female Majin characters as well. The most annoying nitpick I have with this transformation though is the fact that it turns you into a clone of Kid Buu. You get his combo strings, his supers, and I'm not a fan of Kid Buu or his super attack setups in the game. It doesn't feel hype enough for me, and the ultimates are a little bit too wonky for my taste. In closing on this thing, their guard becomes a sort of iframe dodge that is way more effective with online lag and latency, so if you wanted to mess around with purification dodge to stall out time, it's an option. It wastes time, but it's definitely an option. So if you wanted to get used to the purification combo strings, try them out in training, or just use Kid Buu himself and avoid the whole shenanigans. You know, Kid Buu can Ki Blast cancel with the combo strings, purification can't. Remember, you gotta understand, guys. You gotta understand. Now for some unbiased thoughts in closing on female Majins. They're easily one of the best offensive-based classes in the game thanks to raw damage, and have arguably the best racial innate passive with their broken stamina recovery rate. That being said, they are fairly easy to abuse, and unfortunately the community leans more towards cheap gimmicks than quote-unquote honorable play. They have quite a few more freeform combo strings that let you mix things up a little bit more, and combo impulses that definitely give you options to extend or reset with things that you put on your toolkit. As the second strongest strike super choice in the game, they have more than enough firepower to make comebacks happen in the blink of an eye. They are the obvious choice if you'd like to make an offensive character with the Majin Race unique skills, and have a very practical set of cancels you can pull off very easily. Female Saiyans are one of the 8 CAC races. If you couldn't tell, the CACs are designed to be the next generation of fighters that far surpass Goku and the others. That being said, female Saiyans are very knockback and knockdown centric, with quite a few warping cinematic combo enders. I won't be helping you build using any carry tools, meaning that we're going to go for synergy when it comes to learning about the female Saiyan, and not abusable super attacks that take away from how much you have to do to perform well. Female Saiyans have incredible innate Ki Blast attack damage output, and most of their combo strings knock opponents into the line of fire. I want to let you know off the bat that you can combo into Final Flash, Super Kamehameha, Special Beam Cannon, things as fast as those skills without needing a stamina break at all. You'll see the combos that you need to do that a bit later in the video if you stick around, but for now, let's talk cancels. If they haven't popped up on screen yet, you should know that female Saiyans have a lot of natural step cancels and a few guard cancels. They miss out on natural dash cancels, making them a bit stiff compared to male Saiyans and Earthlings, but it's fine when you consider the fact that you have crazy setup potential for these ladies. It's kinda nice. It's kinda nice. Female Saiyans don't need a stamina break at all to finish fights in under a minute actually, when you spec them correctly. And those warping cinematic combos give you access to plenty of tricks and extensions on them that the male Saiyans probably don't have, or they will not have naturally. For example, you have warping stamina breaks and setups into supers like Sledgehammer, or even ultimates like Time Skip Molotov when lag isn't in the way. Of course, we gotta talk about the female Saiyan race unique skills: Burning Slash, Shining Slash, and Saiyan Spirit. It's important to note that Burning Slash and Shining Slash are usable on male Earthlings and female Earthlings as well, so keep that in mind. We also covered them in the male Saiyan series, but for the most part, those are pretty much the only races that can use them. Sorry, Majins and Frieza Race guys and Namekians, I guess they just didn't love them enough, you know? Much like male Saiyan's, Shining Slash can be used as a combo ender or an extension that restands enemies or even turn into a step cancel for you. This means that after performing one of your strong knockback combos, you can use a skill guaranteed to keep up that pressure up close. If the clip hasn't played yet, you'll see some combos into Shining Slash. This video isn't me telling you to put these skills on your character, by the way. I'm just giving you legitimate tech with some of the skills that the other races can't use. Check back on the channel tomorrow for some insane synergy-based Ki Blaster builds for the female Saiyan. It's kinda ridiculous and disgusting. Burning Slash, on the other hand, has the same reset loop that Trunks can use for massive damage. It's a great skill when you know how to cut down that end lag, and the Trunks skill analysis video breaks it down much deeper than I can for right now, because for right now we're looking at female Saiyans, not Trunks. It's one of those skills that definitely fits well in close quarters moveset, but being a strike super, it's less than desired on our female Saiyans. But it's still an option in case you wanted to go for a striker-based female Saiyan, of course. Lastly, Saiyan Spirit is a Saiyan exclusive heavy knockdown that does incredible respectable damage, and can even link into your other ultimates without needing a stamina break. The skill is ridiculously easy to combo into with early parts of your combo strings, so using it when your opponent is below 2 bars of stamina instead of going for the stamina break is a great way to keep pressure up if you kinda wanna mess with your opponent before going for the kill. And on female Saiyans, it's beastly because it lines you up to take off chunks, if not entire bars of health from your opponent, because you can link into other supers or ultimates right after it. It's kinda that good. It's a yikes. It's definitely a yikes, guys. If you made it this far into the video, congratulations. Here's where we take it a step beyond the fat, if you will. We're gonna make it extremely streamlined now. Female Saiyans are a bit on the struggle side when it comes to neutral play. They don't have access to early step cancels, so they can't dance around a neutral up close like male Saiyans can. This means your punishes have to be kinda quick and powerful in most cases, and it also means instead of being the aggressor, you're much safer countering. Female Saiyans have very short range at the start of some combo strings, meaning that you'll be punished in most cases if you don't judge your distance correctly. Counterattacks on almost any like competitive non-carry tool build are definitely going to be recommended for me as a given. Pretty much staples are going to be on the build and all that. And I think your best bet starting off with a female Saiyan is Godbreaker as your counterattack on there. Your enemies will be pretty much trying to take advantage of how much recovery you have on some of your moves, so it won't hurt you to have a nice barrier against predictable attacks or enemies who are just a little bit too hyped to try to hit you. Female Saiyans are almost exclusively good as Ki Blasters, but striker builds are possible thanks to being able to combo into things like Sledgehammer, fully charged, so that's a thing. The fact that you have warp combos on female Saiyans gives you access to some insane moves like Whirlwind Blade and God of Destruction's Wrath to chip away your opponent's health like it's nothing. Like you don't even have to do much to do it. Just time it. Even if you don't have to time it, you can just kind of throw the move out when you warp, and it's like, oh, you flew into that, huh? But hey, you have 2 super dangerous slept-on moves that you should check out that will change how you see female Saiyans entirely. The damage these things like crap out is insane, and I was appalled at what I saw messing around with the female Saiyans. These 2 underused moves are definitely going to be Dodoria Beam and Raccoon Eraser Gun. As weird as that is to say, you might think I'm memeing right now, but no, it's kinda ridiculous. The Dodoria Beam is a super practical move that hits like a truck and you can combo into it in the middle of almost any combo string. And Raccoon Eraser Gun can literally hit harder than most ultimates can from the other races. So it's like, you kind of do Eraser Gun and hit for over 8,000. It's ridiculous. You kind of just got to remember with Raccoon Eraser Gun, you're kind of limited to using it after heavy knockdowns. Lucky for us, female Saiyans have Saiyan Spirit and heavy knockdown combos, so it's kind of a thing you can do, and it's gross. It does damage, guys. Location marking supers are really good for female Saiyans too and deal crazy damage. Think about moves like Flash Strike, Lightning of Absolution, Death Psycho Bomb. and things of that nature for ridiculous damage after any knockback combo. If your opponent decides to sit in your combo string and you have that bar of ki to throw out there, why not use one of these things and do like 4,000, 5,000 damage? You know, it's like, whoa, it's ridiculous. Your opponent just sat there and almost died for sitting there. Who made these? Who said this was a good idea? It's crazy. If you'd like to, you can also stick to using instant beam firing blast for some good synergy as well, like burst Kamehameha, Gallic Gun, etc., etc., if that's your cup of tea. They work perfectly fine with the knockback combos for female Saiyans, so again, it's kind of beastly. The last thing we need to talk about formally though are the transformations. We've gone over the buffs several times, so instead, I'll help you with some quick overviews of them. Super Saiyan itself is more so for striker characters. You deal more melee damage and take less melee damage, but you lose idle stamina recovery and ki recovery. Super Vegeta raises your Ki Blast damage and you take less damage from Ki Blast attacks, but you lose idle stamina recovery and ki recovery, while Future Super Saiyan raises your damage output, ki recovery, and stamina recovery, but doesn't raise any defenses for you. Pick the Super Saiyan form that works best with your build setup and you'll be fine. Don't forget about the revert resets that we went over in the male Saiyan build videos as well. Since the transformations are the same, you'll be getting the same resets that you get on the female Saiyans. Or you can use them on female Saiyans how you would use them on male Saiyans. Excuse me. Now for some unbiased thoughts in closing on female Saiyans. They are definitely monsters when spec'd for Ki Blast damage, and they can do ridiculous things without much effort, to be honest with you. With a certain build, every time your opponent opens up, you can obliterate a clean half of their health bar without wasting many resources at all. We're talking literally 1 bar of ki and your opponent has lost over 4,000 health. Like, that's ridiculous. It can happen so quickly, you know. They definitely outshine male Saiyans in terms of damage output that they can get out in a short period of time, unless you're doing like the triangle circle punish loop. But even then, it's like, I don't know, guys. These guys can wipe you out in less than a minute clean. Like, it could be like a clean victory, you know. Another crazy detail is the fact that when you fall into danger health-wise, you get another 5% damage increase to your outgoing damage. I failed to go over this in the male Saiyan video, but it's also true for them as well. So as soon as a Saiyan falls below 5% of health, you'll see like a misty cloud kind of puffing out of their body, and that means they're getting a damage buff that is going to help them hurt you even more. Or if you're the Saiyan doing the buffing, then you're going to be hitting much harder, which is great. It's actually cool. If you're already transformed with a Super Soul burning in the background, you're going to be doing crazy damage, and it's going to feel a bit unfair. Rakuma Racer Gun went up to about 9,100, I believe, when I was testing it earlier, which is insane. That's literally pretty much a health bar, and you can combo into something like that. So it's like, female Saiyans are a bit on the crazy side. That being said, they are not unbeatable. Female Saiyans have pretty bad neutral options outside of falling back, or like letting their supers take over if they're like using carry tools, meaning if you can get up close and outplay them without getting knocked back into any super attack confirms, you should be able to wipe them out pretty easily. Ki Blast tagging shuts them down harshly, and dashing light attacks might catch them off guard when they're with their own attacks, you know. So there are plenty ways to deal with them, you know, but they're the most dangerous when they have links into some hard-hitting underrated supers. So look out for those. Kind of pay attention to what your opponent's trying to do, because if they look like they have something going on there with like a sledgehammer or something, guys, you might get popped. With the build that we're going to be talking about tomorrow, it might be a lot harder to beat these guys, so I'm giving you fair warning, guys. Hey, I told you I wasn't going to teach you anything crappy. I was going to give you like legitimate, like, so you might see some stankness. Even though Poetan has been my CAC since like the Xenoverse 2 beta, I've never really taken her seriously enough to take her in the PvP since then. And I gotta say though, after checking female Saiyans out in depth for like their week here, I'm surprised the female Saiyans I've run into have been struggling so much when they can reach such stupid high numbers in such short periods of time. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, picture the Sledgehammer fully charged, like doing like 4,000, and you gotta, like, you know, fully charge into it and all that. These girls can hit you with like square, triangle, Dodoria beam and do over a Sledgehammer damage. Like, what? Why is that a thing? Male Saiyans are one of the 8 CAC races, if you couldn't tell. The CACs are designed to be the next generation of fighters that far surpass Goku and the others. That being said, male Saiyans are very cinematic combo heavy. Their combos have a high risk of dropping in an online setting. So how exactly do we get these guys to work with synergy in mind in their super attacks? I won't be helping you build using any carry tools, meaning we're going to go for synergy when it comes to learning about the male Saiyan and not abusable super attacks that take away from how much skill you need to perform to do well. Male Saiyans have incredible basic attack damage output, and most of their combo strengths knock the opponent backwards. I want to let you know off the bat you can combo into Final Flash, Super Kamehameha, Special Beam Cannon, things like that without needing a stamina break at all. You see the combos, you need to do that a bit later in the video, but for now, we'll talk about the cancels that these guys have. If they haven't popped on the screen yet, you should know that male Saiyans have an incredible number of natural dash cancels and step cancels. They don't have a natural guard cancel, but thanks to skills that pretty much let you cancel them out, like, I don't know, tri-beam, etc., you can always give them one, basically. That being said, you can put some incredible pressure up on the enemy that tries to tank your combo strings with just using your dash cancels. The dash cancels are very nice chip damage, especially if you're going with one that's starting with the heavy attack string. I don't see average male Saiyans using their dash cancels to keep their offense up at all, instead kinda opting to kinda guard match when they get a bit of damage out. Male Saiyans are literally perfect for hyper offense though, so practice those dash cancels and stay on the attacking side, because using your dash cancels to keep your momentum up is going to be key for keeping the damage output on your side in PvP, if you choose to play PvP. Like, you might just take this into the parallel quest and beat ass on the computers, which by all means do it if you want to. We'll talk about the male Saiyan race unique skills though, real quick. Burning Slash, Shining Slash, and Saiyan Spirit. It's important to note that Burning Slash and Shining Slash are usable on Earthlings as well, so keep that in mind. It's like a little asterisk, it's kind of locked between male Saiyans, female Saiyans, male Earthlings, female Earthlings, you know that. In regards to male Saiyans though, Shining Slash can be used as a combo ender or extension that restands enemies and even turns into a step cancel if it does land. This means after performing one of your strong knockback combos, you can use the skill guaranteed to keep up that pressure. If the clip hasn't played yet, you'll see some combos in the Shining Slash, and how you can use it fully charged with the step cancel and all that to make crazy loops to do crazy damage. This video isn't me telling you to put these skills on your Saiyan character, by the way. I'm just giving you legitimate tech with some of the skills the other races can't use. So this is stuff that you see right now that female Majins won't be able to use it. Namekians can't use it, but those Earthlings and those Saiyans, you got stuff that you can use. Burning Slash, on the other hand, has the same reset loop that Trunks can use for some massive damage. It's a great skill when you know how to cut down the end lag by just holding the analog stick forward after it ends. And I gotta say, the Trunks skill analysis video breaks it down much deeper than I can for right now, but it's one of those skills that definitely fits very well in close quarters moveset. Male Saiyans can use it just fine, but the default preset I've got in mind for you guys to take away from this doesn't have it equipped. Actually, it doesn't have it. Lastly, Saiyan Spirit is a Saiyan exclusive heavy knockdown attack that does respectable damage and can even link into your ultimates without needing a stamina break at all. This skill is ridiculously easy to combo into with the early parts of your combo strings, so using it when your opponent is below 2 bars of stamina instead of going for the stamina break is a great way to keep pressure up if you want to mess with your opponent before going for the kill. Again, I'm not saying you have to throw this on your male Saiyan, I'm just saying, no pun intended, this skill is exclusive to male and female Saiyan characters, and it gives you a heavy knockdown Ki Blast super, so if you're going to make a blaster type character, you got something there. If you made it this far into the video, congratulations, that was just the fat to trim out anyone who has a short attention span. I'm going to spill the real beans on how to make your male Saiyan put in work, and we'll go over the transformation towards the end of the video, but for now we're talking about their weaknesses and their hangups, and how you can get over them for PvP. Male Saiyans have combo strings that leave them with a lot of recovery. If they miss or are snap vanished out of, pretty much you're sitting there looking kinda doofy. This means that they can be punished very easily if they aren't using their cancels, or will clash the majority of the time if they misjudge where the enemy is. I recommend carrying a counterattack skill on your Saiyan preset to cancel out your recovery when you feel pressured. Such moves might be Pressure Sign, Phantom Fist, Sudden Death Beam, Godbreaker, Burst Rush. All of these skills are great counters. Me personally, I would lean more towards Pressure Sign and Phantom Fist though, because Phantom Fist lets you move where you want to be using your analog stick as you counter, and Pressure Sign's buff lets you pretty much insta counter anyone who gets too hype and even follow up with your own combos. This is a good one on a striker character. But with that being said, let's talk the 3 basic paths of a male Saiyan and how you can kinda use them to your fullest of abilities. We're not gonna go super in-depth, but again, this is the real nigga part of the video. If you have a striker, you can have a blaster or a hybrid. These are pretty much the 3 basic foundations of any build on Xenoverse that is not going like meme tier or cheese tier. Remember, I'm trying to teach you guys like legitimate stuff and not focus on carry tools. That being said, strikers will generally be leaning more toward using basic attack and strike supers. I'd recommend a striker for a male Saiyan because you have a lot less chance for error, and the character is already kind of skewed towards doing that melee damage. But again, you can always choose what you want to do. Strikers have several supers that link up very, very well with how male Saiyans are built. Blasters are usually less damaging up close, but they can link into the crazy Ki Blast supers like, I want to say Perfect Shot, Focus Flash. They can do stuff like that from a distance, and it's not a terrible choice at all. Remember, these are CACs we're talking about at the end of the day. Like, you can literally make yourself deal over a bar of unescapable damage like it's nothing if you wanted to. Hybrids are a mix of the 2, striker and blaster, and they can kind of switch up on the fly for the situation at hand. That being said, until we do the special presets later on in the week for our male Saiyans, I've got a striker one you could try out for yourself against your friends or in PvP if you wanted to. 100% viable, I'd say. Gets my stamp of like, hey, this guy thought it out. Approval. Remember, a majority of our combos are knockbacks, meaning if you want to do the most with them, you have to synergize with the knockbacks using your supers. So, that being said, there's an infamous knockback combo that will drop almost all the time on male Saiyans, and I've seen it a lot. You see it in PvP a lot. People, they kind of just mashing the buttons, and they just kind of want to get that good damage out there, but that combo, man, it'll trip you up every time you go for it by mistake, and you're losing the chance to deal out that big damage with a combo ender. This means we're going to run something that can replace it. I'm thinking along the lines of Savage Strike and Rocket Tackle to become our new combo enders after knockback combos. Now, the biggest thing that will synergize with this, out of those two skills, I gotta say, is Rocket Tackle. Now, if you guys didn't listen to the weaknesses before, you leave yourself wide open to get punished a lot as a male Saiyan, and Rocket Tackle actually gives you armor and helps you safely get out of situations even if your enemy snap vanishes. If they don't, it's a free extension to the end of your knockback combos that serves as a new ender for you, meaning you can pretty much chip away with low combos that do like maybe 1,500, and then if your opponent did not snap vanish, go for the Rocket Tackle, get the extra 1,000 out, so now you've done 2,000 to 3,000 damage on them because they tried to sit to your combo. So you get to do a lot of neat synergy using skills like that, and once again, Savage Strike could be your actual other option if you want to just punch your opponent in the face. You're on a striker character with this one. So, hey, it's a very nice thing to think about, and I definitely love Rocket Tackle on male Saiyans. I think if you guys try it out for the one time, just try it out, get rid of that Punisher drive, get rid of that Aura Slide, whatever the hell you got on there. Try out Rocket Tackle and tell me how you feel about it in PvP. I really think it is nice after knockback combos, and it does cover your bases as a male Saiyan, and it's a lot less cheesy looking in playback. Gotta say, I love it. Also, you can try running Shining Slash on this preset and will restand or step cancel. That type of tech that we talked about a little bit earlier in the video is very nice, and it keeps you on top of your opponent. The damage will rack up very quickly, and you can constantly be on top of your enemy. It's hard to pass up this one unless you like don't want to have a random sword being pulled out of your back. I understand. It's understandable if you kind of want to avoid looking that goofy. I would say lastly, for the super attack slots, you would try running Phantom Fist. This is probably my favorite counter attack right now that is not Pressure Sign, but Phantom Fist is a really nice one because it lets you do a special animation when you are mid combo and you kind of just want to cross your arms and dodge the attack. Really like it. It was very, very, very good back in Xenoverse 1, and I think it's still pretty good this time, even though it costs key. You just want to make sure you're not throwing it out every 2 seconds. Remember, Rocket Tackle is your safest option on the preset easily, but Pressure Sign is great if you want to dodge a quick ultimate or something like that and you see it coming, you know, or if your opponent kind of snap vanishes out of a skill and they're the type to try to hit you immediately. Backswinging on a Saiyan is always viable. You have very, very crazy range, but again, Phantom Fist is still a good way to cover your bases if you feel like you're not moving fast enough mentally to actually go for that backswing. For ultimates, you probably want to run something like, I don't know, Victory Rush, Dragon Fist, or Justice Combination. If you're looking for optimization, I actually try to run Ki Blast ultimates on my striker just because they're kind of unexpected, and you can link into them easily. Saiyan Spirit and Super Kamehameha are the ones that I run on the preset. They're very fun, but if you wanted to go for like actual viable damage, I don't see why you wouldn't want to run something like Victory Rush, Justice Combination, or Dragon Fist, even though it is kind of seen as kind of, you know, you see, it's always a weird thing with CACs because when you choose skills like that, it's like, eh. But, the last thing that we need to talk about formally, though, are the transformations. We've gone over the buffs several times, so instead, I'm going to help you guys out with quick overviews of them. Super Saiyan itself is more so for striker characters. You deal more melee damage and take less melee damage, but you lose stamina and ki recovery, so that's the thing. You lose your ki recovery and your stamina recovery. You're not losing stamina over time, just to clear that up. I don't know if you guys thought that and you're like, hey, what the fuck? Nah. Super Vegeta raises your ki blast damage and you take less damage from ki attacks, but you lose your stamina and ki recovery. So again, your recovery gets shot, but you get a damage boost. While Future Super Saiyan pretty much raises your damage output without losing your stamina recovery at all. You pick the Super Saiyan form that works best with your build, and you set up, and you'll be fine. You'll pretty much be fine. I think Future Super Saiyan is probably the one you want to go for if you're kind of still iffy on what you want to do damage-wise. But if you've got it down to a science and you want to just do the most you could possibly do with like a male Saiyan, I think Super Saiyan 3 is going to give you the highest damage yield you can get with these characters. But don't take it from me, guys. You guys just want to go out there and practice, you know. Now, for some unbiased thoughts in closing on male Saiyans, these guys do ridiculous damage with their combo strings. In fact, the first heavy attack of their heavy string does way too much damage in my opinion. You can optimize your Saiyan's damage output by just doing the first heavy attack in the string and then throwing a Ki Blast, or doing the first heavy attack and then throwing Dodan Ray Step Cancel, or doing the heavy attack and then doing the finishing blow or the final blow, whatever the hell the Whis move is, Step Cancel, do it again. Like, it's ridiculous, guys. Like, the damage output is way too high, and Hey, it's hard to argue that these guys aren't busted, especially when you realize that on most builds, that triangle attack is doing a clean 1,000 off of an enemy's health bar. That's like a 1/10 of a health bar. All you gotta do is do that 10 times and you've taken off a health bar from the enemy. That's a bit crazy.